Ms. Rayford,
Here.
Ms. Richardson,
Present.
and Mrs. Grunberg.
Here.
Stand for the pledge. Stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, next we need a motion for approval of the agenda.
Place forth a motion to approve the agenda as written.
Support.
Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Dr. Hurley,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Ms. Rayford,
No.
Ms. Richardson,
Yes.
Ms. Grunberg.
Yes.
Motion carries. Okay, next we have consent agenda. Is there a motion for that?
Place forth a motion to accept the consent agenda as written.
Support.
Please call the vote.
Mr. Roscoe,
Yes.
Mr. Williams, yes. Dr. Hurley,
Yes.
Mr. Grunberg,
Yes.
Ms. Rayford,
No.
Ms. Richardson,
Approve and support.
Ms. Grunberg.
Yes. She might have misunderstood this.
Oh, I'm sorry.
And you can officially have the rest of the night off, I think that's it, yeah? As far as votes.
Yeah.
Okay, next we have superintendent's report. Superintendent Gibson.
All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen of the Board of Education. As the board knows and the community is beginning to know, we are allowing full face-to-face instruction. And we'll be shifting to that for grades 11 and 12 on Monday, March 20th. And for grades 7 through 10, the shift will occur on Monday, March 27th. We will be encouraging all students to return to face-to-face instruction on these dates. We thank the community and the students, as well as the staff, for altering their instructional delivery style. We have learned a lot about the hybrid instruction, but mostly we have learned that when we can, we should have the children all back in school. A construction update, the new marquees are being installed across the district. Here are some amazing pictures of students learning watercolor from Miss Thrift's art classes. This particular project that we're featuring today is Freedom Magazine covers using watercolors. And as you know, the board did approve the Art of Education curriculum, and this lesson and all of the resources were accessible because of that curriculum that we have adopted, and resource, I should say. Congratulations to the East Point High School culinary students who competed in the Pro Star Invitational in Port Huron, Michigan. While they did not place this year, they did an excellent job, and we have a lot to be proud of. Here are the ELC students celebrating Dr. Seuss and making some green eggs and ham. This occurred in Miss Paula and Miss Jacqueline's classroom, and the students got to read the book as well as celebrate by making Cat in the Hat snacks with marshmallows, bananas, and strawberries to go along. Pleasant View just hosted their literacy night. I know Miss Trice and the Pleasant View building will be celebrating some of their amazing work, but we wanted to make sure that we highlighted it here in the superintendent's report as well. East Point Middle School celebrated Black History Month with almost 80 students participating in the school's Black History Month essay contest. Students were asked about their hero and how that person impacted their lives. Top students were recognized during a special assembly. The local author, Carmen Henry, and even earned cash prizes from Education Impact Services. Congratulations and thank you to all of our East Point Middle School students who participated. Upcoming events, March's Reading Month continues with lots of great reading celebrations. This week, the 15th through the 16th, there will be no classes at East Point Early Learning Center as we will be having conferences with parents. March 20th, grades 11 and 12 return fully to face-to-face. March 23rd, Crescentwood Literacy Night. March 27th, 7, 8, 9, 10 return to face-to-face learning. March 28th, Forest Park Literacy Night at 4:30 p.m. March 31st will be the end of the quarter. For the third quarter, there will be no students in session. We will have staff reaching out to parents for some parent-teacher conferences, as well as a whole district gathering here in the East Point High School auditorium. April 3rd through 7th is spring break, and April 13th is our kindergarten roundup at Forest Park and Crescentwood. We will be having 10 a.m. in-person meetings and 6 p.m. virtual meetings for all families to learn more about becoming part of East Point Community Schools. Next up, I'd like to welcome to the podium Principal Felicia Trice of Pleasant View Elementary School. And it looks like Ms. Trice has with her Kelly Berg, at-risk social worker, as well as Jennifer Swain, Title I instructional coach.
Good evening. I'm come to bring you an update on all things Pleasant View. First, I wanted to talk about our SST student support team. As Superintendent Gibson mentioned, these two wonderful young ladies, they spearhead that for me. So we're just going to give you some insight on what we do with SST. The student support team at Pleasant View consists of all staff working in grade level teams, providing interventions at different tiers and measuring the effectiveness of those interventions. There's a 4-step process that we use for our SST process. Step 1, we identify students in need. We use our teachers and our support teams, and they come together and they provide recommendations about academic struggles via classwork that the teachers may see, anything that the support staff see that would be something for us to notice a student that might need additional academic support. We use formative and summative data, including our NWEA scores, our DRA assessments, our pre and post tests from the classrooms, as well as our LLI reading kits support and our iReady assessments. We also use attendance data. That allows us to see if attendance is the issue for some of the academic concerns, and then we use our behavior patterns in which we have quick notes that come to my office. We all sit down as a team and we look at the accumulation for certain students to try to figure out certain times of the day behavior might occur, what behavior is occurring, what subject is being taught when the behavior is going on. So we look at many different things when we focus on behavior patterns, and then parent input. As with all of the parent things that we have at Pleasant View, we do surveys. And on the surveys, we ask parents of any academic concerns they may see at home when the student is doing homework, and then our team take that information back to the SST meetings, and then we use that to formulate a plan for the student. In step 2, we use tracking to identify students, and as you see over to the right, that is what our Google Doc looks like. Each student in the program has their own page, and it tells us what on the week, what did we talk about when it comes to that student? What were we focusing on academics? Were we talking about behavior, truancy? Anything that was pertaining to that student, that's what we talk about to focus on. And we move forward by tracking the progress of all identified areas. And when I say identified areas, it's the things that's listed above: attendance and academics, behavior. So those are the things that we constantly look at every week. We also track the IEP process. So if any student we send forward to start an IEP, where's the process at? Is it still at the beginning? Have the parents been contacted? So so that we'll know that's something that we can move forward with when we're talking about our students. Step 3 is where the team meets and identify interventions. So this meeting happens every week at grade level. So the teams come in and they meet for about 45 minutes to an hour, and the team members bring artifacts, and artifacts can include student work, any assessment data that was collected during that week that was not talked about prior to the meeting, and the teachers bring it in and they talk about it as a team. We also identify supports. Supports include small group pullouts, classroom and home intervention, truancy support, behavioral and emotional support, as well as any parent meetings that may have been conducted via phone call, having a parent come in, or through Class Dojo. In step 4, we have our outcomes of student tracking and intervention. And as on that presentation to the right, that is the form that we fill out. And it states week by week what we're doing with the students on each intervention. So if the student is receiving 3 different interventions, we say what's going on every week with those interventions, just so we can see if it's working to move the students forward. Okay, the next slide talks about the data of the students that have been in the SST process from fall to winter NWEA testing. So with our 3rd graders, we had 21 students that were identified by the 3rd grade team. On the NWEA, 76% of those 21 students grew in math, and 67% of the students grew in reading. And that was something we really wanted to look at to see if those supports were working. And the only way we can tell is if they grew between testing sessions. And as you look, our 4th grade students really did well. 93% of the 18 that was on the list grew in math, and 94% of the students grew in reading. And then we had one that we did a formal recommendation and sent over to our special ed department. Then we have our 5th graders, 18 students identified. 72% of those students grew in math, and 82% of those students grew in reading. And several students were able to move out of the SST process, so we were happy about that, and that allowed us to move other kids in. So now, at each grade level, we have between 25 and 30 students. So that gave us an opportunity to slide some students out that were doing really, really well with this intervention, and then move in new students. So I did want to point out before we talk about this slide that one thing that hinders a lot of what we do is attendance. So my BTN and these fabulous ladies right here, we work on how to improve the attendance of those students, because without them there, we can't really monitor the process that we have. So those are some things that we look at, but we really narrow in on that attendance piece. And as Superintendent pointed out, March is Reading Month, and our fabulous Superintendent Gibson came and kicked off at Pleasant View on March the 1st. It was hard to see who had the most fun between her and the students, but the 4th grade students absolutely loved her. I think I sent her a message later on that night. That picture to the left is my absolute favorite of her and one of our students, Davon. And he's so inquisitive, but she taught him how to play the little drums, and he walked away with that and felt really accomplished, and said when he comes to the high school, he's going to join the band, all from that experience he had there. Our next reader was Senator Veronica Kleinfeld, so she came in and read to our 3rd and 4th grade students. She also allowed them to do a Q&A session with her, and yes, they did ask her how much she makes. Our last, at the bottom, you see we had DJ Angie Starr from KISS 105.9 FM from Mason and Star in the morning. She came and read to our young ladies, our 4th and 5th grade young ladies. She also did a piece on Pleasant View the next morning and did a shout out to the East Point Community School District. And as we continue in March's Reading Month, on tomorrow we have our East Point Police and Fire Department coming, as well as one of our board members, Miss Mary Hall Rayford, is coming to read to our students. The Macomb County Prosecutor will be there this week as well. State Representative Kimberly Edwards is coming. City Councilwoman Stacy Cobb Nunez will be there, as well as one of our teachers, a WDIV broadcaster. We just don't know which one will surprise our school by coming in. So we thought that that's exciting. We also have our spelling bee. It was supposed to be Friday, however, we moved it to this Thursday. And the good thing about this spelling bee is we're in-step driven. So all of the spelling words are vocabulary terms from the in-step assessment. So we are proud to say that our third graders are participating with our fourth and fifth graders. They were not scared to participate in this spelling bee. We have our in-step Title I dinner where we're having our parents come out and they're going to see what the in-step test is about, because a lot of the times the parents just think it's just a test that we're getting. So we're going to make them take the test of the grade level of the student that they have. And we're going to feed them because we told them it takes time, but the parents are really excited about coming out. We have our in-step pep rally that we're doing, whole school pep rally. Our second grade transition luncheon that we're in the process of planning. We're inviting the second grade students from Forest Park to come over. We're going to give them a Pleasant View t-shirt, lunch, and let them meet our third grade team. We also have our spring play, which will be here at the high school, Beauty is a Beast. And we are launching our robotics club and our glee club. And these pictures are just some student and parent learning things that we did at Pleasant View. Starting to my left, we have a picture from Mrs. Burr's science class where the students were working with apples. Why are apples green and why are apples red? And some of the parents were able to zoom in and talk and give their point of view. I thought that was really nice to incorporate the parents in that. Some pictures from our Title I literacy are the two pictures at the bottom. And then closer to your right is Miss Dickens' class where her students were reading Winn-Dixie. So her picture is actually the picture that WDIV picked so that we are in the running for one of the broadcasters to come out. The students ate eggs and pickle sandwiches, is that right? Eggs and pickle sandwiches as depicted in the book. So it was fun to see them do that, and you are now caught up on all things Pleasant View.
Thank you so much, Principal Trice. We appreciate the update from Pleasant View. And for the Board of Education and Community, SST and the process of supporting students is not only at Pleasant View, it is across the district in a number, in all of our schools across the district. Next up, I'd like to invite Jeff Atkins from Barton Mallow, and he will give us an update on our board present and our bond.
Great.
Thanks, Jeff.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much, School Board, for letting us to continue to update you on our progress. So, first what we want to do is just give you more detail. We're not asking for any decisions tonight. This is an action item. We want to just continue to update you as we move towards a meeting with the Department of Treasury in April. So the agenda, we want to still cover the same basic things. We want to tell you, update you on the time frames and costs. One of the items that we did want to add to the agenda is talk about enrollment projections. We want to give you that information. And then also a little bit more information about potential scopes of the project. And then we'll wrap it up with the next steps and open up for some questions and comments. So for the time frame, we've got a very detailed schedule that we're working towards. Basically, we have tasks every single week that we're working towards. We do plan to be back here on the 27th for your board meeting to review the information with you again. So you have time. We want to just kind of keep coming back to you, letting you digest the information we give you, letting you think about questions, and come back to you. But after the meeting on March 27th, we really need to look to wrap this up. We've got a meeting with the Department of Treasury on April 10th, where we need to present what we plan to do for the district. And then that night, on the April 10th board meeting, the district will have to review that information. It'll be asked to sign the bond application to send it back to Treasury for their formal 30-day review process. The meeting on the 10th is just a preliminary review meeting to make sure everything looks good with them before they do their formal review. So April 10th is a very critical date in this whole process for us. Next. So some financial information. I do want to share a little bit more information. So the bond history results, we shared this with you last time, but we got a couple more couple more of the election results for the last couple in here. So election results, when there's a tax increase, is just a little bit over 50% success rate statistically over the last 12 years or so. But a bond proposal that is a no tax rate increase is still over 90% complete or 90% successful for you. So it's very encouraging. The district did want to go for a no tax rate increase. History does show it's very, very positive. But unfortunately, once you do start to ask for a tax increase, those rates and that percentage drops pretty drastically on that. So what does that mean for East Point? So in looking at that, if the district decided they do want to go for a no tax rate increase, the district has a bonding capacity of $36 million. That's what the district could go for and ask the community to support. It would not be any additional funds from the school district or from the taxpayers than what they are currently paying. That date just gets extended longer. Again, it's like refinancing your house. You continue to pay that same amount that you do every month. It just gets extended to the end of that debt. We also did ask them, though, what would a tax rate increase, what could that look like? And we just asked them to look at round numbers. So we said, what would $50 million look like? It's a 1 mil tax increase. The district, if they did decide they did want to go for a tax rate increase, it could be any amount. You could ask for $37 million. You could ask for $60 million. It really doesn't matter. What does matter is what that means to the taxpayer. The more you ask for, the more money that you're going to be asking for that taxpayer. So these are just some benchmark data, so at least we wanted to get the order of magnitude of what that increase could look like. And then the next slide, so this really shows you, so that top part of it, that first table at $36 million, again, not additional cost to the taxpayer from what they're currently paying. If you did go for something for $50 million, so if you considered an average house in the community, that average house value might be $150,000, the taxable value is about half of that. So the taxable value would be $75,000. So that's what you would be paying the additional funds on. So for a $50 million bond program, it's a 1 mil increase, $75,000 taxable base, it's $75 a year is what that would mean for $6.25 per month. So relatively small, but it is a net tax increase, and historically, once it is a tax increase, it does sort of change the dynamic during the campaign phase. But we wanted to share with you what those numbers would mean to the taxpayers, because that's one of the most important things, is what does it mean for me? What does it cost us? So now the enrollment projections. I did want to share this with you. I mentioned this last time. I didn't have it in this presentation last time, but this was the most exciting information that I got during this process. And in looking at this, obviously the district, there is still a little bit of a trend, of a downward trend of your enrollment projections. But when the demographers looked at this and your 5-year trends, that top line, those pre-K students, there's just an explosion that's being predicted for your area of what those numbers could be. I can't quite see it from here, but I think you're at like 182 students right now, and it's going to be well over 300 students is what they're projecting in the next 5 years. Obviously, a lot can change in what can be, but that is a very encouraging number for the district to see that there's a growth at that level, and that would obviously trickle down. Those students, once they're in the preschool program, they tend to stay in that program, so those elementary numbers should remain strong for the foreseeable future. So that's really why, once we saw this information, we really wanted to focus on what can we do with those elementary buildings to improve them, because that's where we're starting to see the students come back to the community and maintain what we're doing there. So there's something good there that we want to build upon. So for potential scope, I didn't really want to recap everything we talked about last time. Last time, if you remember, we talked about playgrounds and parking lots, and those are all great things. What I really wanted to focus on is kind of filling in some of the blanks from some of the data that we've come up with over the last 2 weeks. So one is safety and security. We know that's very important to every community. So I wanted to give you several bullet points of the ideas that we're talking about here. We talked about the secure entrances at your 2 secondary buildings. We feel that that's important. The security cameras, we would want to add in interior cameras at the elementary schools, and then look to replace and upgrade the security cameras on the outside of the buildings. Those cameras are a lot of analog cameras, and if you know how much your TV has progressed from a picture tube TV to your TVs you got today, you can imagine the quality that's increased over time exponentially. So this would increase those security cameras. In addition, we need to increase the exterior lighting, because those exterior cameras don't do very well unless they have lighting. So in tie-bar with that would be the lighting increase. A couple of other things we added on here since last time is adding a visitor and emergency management system. This would be something at the front desk where people would check in and give some monitors there to be able to watch what's going on. The Ever Alerts clock system, this is just one brand name, but basically what it would be is the clock systems throughout the district would be replaced. In lieu of having whatever clock you have there right now, it would become a digital display that normally would show the time, but if there ever was a situation where you had to go into a lockdown drill or some other drill, a tornado drill, messages would repeat on that clock and give you a display in there telling those students what to do and what the situation was. So it's another way to have emergency notification within your building. Rekeying doors and locks, just over time, as keys get handed out, as keys don't get collected, it just becomes a best practice that over time those keys should be recorded in your buildings. And then adding door alarms to emergency exits. This was a concern, relatively minor, but you got some doors that are emergency exit only. That's always a fear that somebody might prop those doors open and let somebody in there that doesn't need to be in there. Usually it's innocuous, usually it's just a kid that got let in, but we want to make sure to add some emergency alarms to those emergency egress only doors so that we know if there's ever propped open for whatever reason, the district can react to that appropriately. Oh, and I'm sorry, the uninterrupted power devices, I'm sorry, perfect, thank you. So for technology, I think last time we just had a couple of things on there. We had some time we have to spend with Danny to understand what his 5-year plan looks like for the district. A lot of it is replacing devices. You bought a lot of devices through the COVID ESSER funds, but those devices only last 5 years, so you always want to look at how you replace those over the long term. So that's very important. But in addition to that, he was very clear in what he wanted to as far as replacing other devices as they start to go out of useful life. And then also helping that network, wireless network, the wired network, and cabling to replace those over time. So he had a pretty well laid out plan for technology. And then kind of wrapping up everything. So we really started to look at, okay, what would be the major priorities that we could do to fit within the $36 million budget? If that's what the district decided to do, was to stay with the no tax rate increase, what are the most important things to make sure to fit within that $36 million? And this is just a recap of it. Again, as I mentioned, the early learning center in the elementaries, pretty much the same scope we talked about before with the playground improvements, the parking lot improvements, and all the major infrastructure priorities that were identified in the facility assessment that haven't already been done through the sinking fund. At the middle school, we would be taking care of that secure entrance and taking care of the major roof issues. The high school will be addressing the security entrance, culinary arts program, reinvigorating the pool, and then demoing a small part of the building that's currently closed right now. The operations building would have a minor increase. They've got one minor item that needs to be taken care of over there. Safety security, that $3 million represents what I just showed in the list. And then the technology plan is about $6.4 million. So all those items would total up that $36 million program. That's something that we could very easily bring forward to Treasury and then bring forward to the community later on. But what we did want to share with you today is also some additional considerations. As these processes go on, as the bond planning happens, there's a lot of great ideas. There's never bad ideas. Unfortunately, there's a lot more wants than there are dollars available for this. But we felt there was a few of them we were going to identify and share with you as some potential items if the district did decide to go for an increase. One of the major ideas was an actual high school stadium complex. Location to be determined. We haven't finalized where that could be, but that is a pretty big concept for this community. They have an actual competition stadium, meaning synthetic turf, 8-lane tracks, support buildings with it, restrooms, all those kind of things. That would be one major thing that the district could consider if they wanted to ask for an increase. Other items would be some additional computer replacements to continue that sustainability that the district's built upon. Some more network switches that are still have life left in them, but we want to look at those later on. So furniture equipment, we know that you're purchasing a lot of that right now. But there's always a little bit more furniture, a little bit more equipment that could be done in the future. And then the operations building. Again, we're very selective, only pick one part of that operations building because we want to make sure that all the funds are being spent at the school buildings. But that operations building serves a function for the district. We need to make sure we maintain that building down the road. So adding all those items up, it's about another $12 to $14 million, which would kind of fit within that $50 million budget that we were kind of looking at. So we didn't intentionally make work to that number. We just wanted to kind of see what would do so we could start to have some discussion if we wanted to about what would fit, how did that fit, and what else could we do, what would be the next priorities for the district. So I want to kind of wrap up with next steps and then open up for some discussion or questions that you may have. So a couple of key dates, as I mentioned, I plan to be back here on the 27th to providing more updates that we come across over the next 2 weeks. But also at that time, we'd love to have your feedback again. If there's things that you feel very passionate about or something that maybe we didn't answer the question on. As I mentioned, April 10th, we've got that meeting with the Department of Treasury to review the draft of what this looks like. And at that point, we'll be asking the school board that night to sign the bond application. Basically, it's basically signing it, that we want to submit the application to Treasury to review it. If everything goes well with Treasury and it's all approved, which I can pretty much guarantee it will be, on May 8th would be the opportunity for the board to call for election in order to meet the August 8th election date. And there'll be a whole campaign process that I don't want to dive into it right now because we want to stay focused on this part of it, but as that campaign process comes across, we'll be happy to continue to update you on how that works and how that rolls out. So that's my part of the presentation. I'm happy to entertain any questions.
Yes, I have a question. The document that will be sent into the Treasury on the 10th, will we be able to see it prior to it being sent to the Treasury, and then when they come back, if they have changes, then we can see the new changes before we vote that night?
Absolutely. Our intent is on, I believe, March 30th. We were going to try to send that out to the entire board because we know with spring break it was kind of tricky there, so we wanted to make sure to send it out to you prior to spring break. So you'll see the same copy that's going to go to the Department of Treasury, so that you would have a week to review it. That way, you know, when we do come back to you on April 10th, we can let you know if there's any minor tweaks. Typically, they might find one word or something they just feel like, let's reword this a little bit. But I would definitely point out those changes to you on April 10th.
Thank you.
I got a question. Excuse me. With the possibility of doing like a demo on part of the building, could that benefit us in remodifying like the stadium or football stadium? Could we use that portion to, or would that be big enough or not big enough, depending on what? I mean, if we could get a diagram of what you plan on demolishing with the building, maybe we could sit down and go over something like that as well.
Yeah, we were looking at the west end of the building, the part of the building that's currently closed right now. We just felt that there was that part of the building does need some work, and we just didn't feel it was the best use of the money to invest money into there, so it's better to take that part down. But that would give you some option maybe to, I know the tennis courts are subpar, you know, it might give you an option to help build that tennis court closer to the building. It would give you more real estate on site, which is always a value. Yeah, but yeah, we can help you kind of understand what part of it we're looking at that's currently closed that we would target for demolition.
Thank you so much, Jeff. That concludes the superintendent's report this evening.
All right, thank you very much.
Okay, next we have hearing of the public. Usually I ask you to raise your hand, but I can't really see the hands out there, so anyone who wants to be recognized, please just approach the podium, because I can see the podium. Does anyone wish to be heard? Does anyone wish to be heard? I don't see anybody walking up, so we'll close that hearing of the public. Next we have trustees' announcements. Ms. Richardson.
Trustees.
Oh, I'm sorry, I did not hear you. First of all, I'd just like to, I'm very excited to know that the middle school and the high school will be back on a full 5-day. I mean, I'm totally excited about that. And I really appreciate that to that point. Also, to Pleasant View, I'm really excited about that support team you have. I like it because you're individualizing each student instead of clumping them all together, and that helps them as well as us getting a good point of view of where our children are, and I really appreciate that. And if there's a time limit that you do it, and we can look forward to see it before it gets to the end. And I also was excited that when the children comes out of it, there's other children coming back in, and I was very excited about that.
Mr. Williams.
Thank you, Mr. President. I was excited as well, piggyback off of Ms. Richardson about the SST program, the Student Support Team. I think all 4 steps are very key. And welcome back to the students full time. I think that's very exciting as well. Congratulations to the culinary team of the East Point High School for a job well done. And just remember, it's not how you start, it's how you finish. So that's an exciting program, and I'm very excited to see the growth over the next few years. Welcome to all the new hires. And that was a great presentation. And I hate I missed Angie Starr and Veronica Kleinfeld and Miss Christina Gibson. Should have had an audience for that. That Christina, she's a dynamic speaker. If you guys didn't get to see her at the State of the City, you missed a treat. I was very proud. I believe that's everything. Thank you, team. Thank you, Mr. President. And that's all.
Ms. Grover.
I just want to say I'm excited for Pleasant View. It's got a warm spot in my heart. Congratulations to the culinary CTE students. Welcome new hires. Well, they can hear me. And that's all. Good night.
Ms. Rayford.
Thank you. Well, a couple of things. One, I'm really glad that culinary students enjoy themselves. Learning how to deal with competition, win or lose, is always a good thing, especially early in life, because we don't always win, but when you put your best effort forth, it's still a win as far as I'm concerned. I wanted to remind people there should have been some flyers circulating into the district regarding a community health fair on March 25th at Emmanuel Church from 10 to 4. We're looking forward to the number of people that are coming out. If you didn't know, there will be raffles there for a 55-inch TV as well as $50 gift card. So it's not just about the health. You can get a little something to benefit you and your family as well. We have, with new employees, welcome. Hopefully they'll stay. I don't like revolving doors, but I know sometimes it's inevitable. And Pleasant View, I'm looking forward to being there tomorrow. Been a good time for me. I was at Forest Park last week and I enjoyed the kids immensely. Couldn't be at the State of the City because I was working with the Gleaners distribution, which to me is far more beneficial for as a community. So hopefully we'll be rid of the snow soon so we can enjoy some springtime weather and come out of winter coats.
Mr. Axel.
All right. Congratulations to the new hires. Congratulations to the culinary department. And I just wish we could have been there. You know, maybe next time, because it will be next time, we want to be present just to give them that extra boost. How about that, gang? And the presentation from Principal Trice, exciting news, great news. But I just have one little minor question. What would you think the percentage of those students, the growth of that percentage? I see you had one for 67% and 80%, am I correct? Well, what was the growth from the beginning to that end number, if I may ask?
So when we did look at that data, the students, you have to look at the COVID loss. So that's like the 1 to 2 year loss for some students. So with the gain, some students gained either a half a year's growth or a year. The students that we moved out of the program went to grade level. So you always want to see that they just needed that small push that would have got them to where they needed to be. So somewhere in about 5 to 10 points that they grew, and then we had one student, I think, did 35 points. So that was amazing, and it was just getting that one student excited about coming to school, the attendance of that child improved tremendously. And then we all took time with that student, because the mom felt that the previous years at Pleasant View, that the team was distant. So we made ourselves available to that particular student, and it made a difference. So probably about, you're looking between a half a year to a year's growth as far as a child being on 3rd grade, but in 5th, now they're on 4th grade level.
I just want to congratulate you and your team for a job well done. And thank you, community, for giving me an opportunity to serve, as well as this great administration that we serve. Superintendent Christina and our great President John. That's all I have to say.
Dr. Roy.
All right, great President John.
That's great. Great President John.
I think it means,
First, I'm going to start off with Principal Trice. Thank you so much for the presentation. I really like to see the processes that you're taking, because that in itself shows the level of care that you're willing to give to the students, and that your team comes together to meet the need of the students and meet them where they are, so you can bring them higher to where they need to be. So that in itself shows the care and compassion that your staff have for the East Point Community School students. I'm so happy that we're going back to face-to-face learning, because after being in the launch of the mentor program with one of the churches, a lot of the students was like, I want to be in school. Like, that was one of the biggest things they told us, that they want to be in school. So it's really wonderful that we can now come back to that place. I'm hoping, or my hope would be, is the transition is smooth for everyone, because some kids just didn't do well in that hybrid program or hybrid situation, and it was to no fault of their own. You know, they didn't force themselves to have to go into that position, and because all kids can't learn by looking at a screen. It's just not for everybody. And so to be able to be back with their friends, the socialization piece, to be able to have a teacher to talk to just to be here for lunch sometimes, because we even talked to the kids, who's like, tell me about your lunch period. Like, explain to me, what do you think? How do you feel about the food here? Like, we really talk to them to get an idea, because the mentoring program is not just for us to come in and talk to them, but to listen to them. I want to say congratulations to our culinary department, the arts department, the ELC creations. I love anything artsy, and so that part, it just got me, like, my heart full to see all of those creative outlets for them. And then last but not least, I love to see the programs with parents. I was at the event on Saturday with State Rep Edwards, and I got into a conversation with a lady there, and she was like, the problem with the schools is the parents is not participating. And I said, first of all, we have a lot of parents that participate. I said, when was the last time you've been at the school to see what's going on in the school? Well, I haven't been there. I said, when was the last time you donated your time or money to the schools? When was the last time you talked to a parent? And it was no, no, and no. And the narrative out there is that we don't have the participation, but the narrative should be that if you come into the schools to see what needs to be done, then you can know what's really going on. And so I really want to say congratulations to those parents who really come and really show up. And I really like the fact that you're having a live version and a virtual version, because we're meeting the parents where they are. We're meeting their need, not just for us. And so I just wanted to say publicly to the ladies, see, I told you parents this is coming, and the more parents show up, the better this district will be. And I'm going to sit off my soapbox.
Okay, I'll ask, so, first off, I want to start off with Pleasant View, and it's not just necessarily Pleasant View, but it's the schools in general. Really love hearing what's going on in the schools all the time. That's my favorite conversations that we have here at the board table, is programming it in regards to students and how it's having a positive effect on them. And I love hearing about that. Doesn't matter what school it is, this time it's Pleasant View. Nice job. Culinary arts students, maybe I'll drop in a few names, but I have had some discussion with Olympic champions and world champions and whatnot involved in wrestling, and had dinner with them and whatnot. And I can tell you that Steve Frazier from Hazel Park, Olympic champion, he said it best that you learn much more from a loss than you do from a win, which is the truth. Because when you win, you put your hands up in the air and you think you did great, and you don't really reflect on what you did. But when you lose, you always have to reflect so you can get better, right? That's the main thing. And then Masaki Hara, world champion, I think he expressed it best to my kids, which helped them, because they were, if you look in the gymnasium, you'll see they were rather accomplished wrestlers, but which helped them was, always keep your goals very high. Don't have your goals low. So you don't want to just place at that competition, you want to win that competition. Because if you fall short of that goal, you still will have really accomplished a lot. But if you shoot lower and you fall short of there, then you're lower than that. Always keep your goal up there as high as it can possibly be. Now I can tell you, not all three of my sons won state championships, but they were all very close, and one did win it, out of my three sons. So they heeded the advice, and I would give that advice to any of our students that we have here. Keep your goals high, and don't worry about getting knocked down so much, because you learn a lot more from getting knocked down than you do from winning all the time. So that's okay. And then finally, I just want to make sure, because people understand that even though we share a name with the city that we're located in primarily, that this entity here is a completely separate entity from the city entity. They do not have any decision-making authority here over our schools, and we don't have any decision-making authority over what goes on in the city. And I just want people to understand that it is two separate entities. Please, if there's anything going on in our school district that you're concerned about or you want addressed, please bring it to us. We want you to let us know so that we can try to resolve every issue we can to the best of our ability. And we have no problem. We expect that this community will hold this district accountable for what we do. And I think everybody that sits up here probably feels about the same way on that. We want to be held accountable for what we do here. And we want you to come to us if you have an issue so we can try to resolve it. Now, we can't resolve city issues just like a city can't resolve our issues. We are two separate entities. I know we share a name, but we are two separate entities. I'll finish with that. Meeting adjourned. Thank you.